dude.
You okay, man?
Yeah, cameraman's doing his thing.
Oh, me? I know. He asked me to come over. I don't have a beef with you. All right, listen. If this is between you and me, you take it up with him. He called me over. All right. It's just. Why is he like that?
Because every time you ask a question, you're going to upload it to the internet, so we're going to do it right.
Okay, so the Mayan calendar ended in 2012, and it wasn't supposed to be the physical world, life, the FPS MMORPG is like, closing up shop. No. It means now, from this point forward, there's an absence of logos. We're living in mumbo-jumbo times. People are crayoning outside the lines. All bets are off. People are trying to enforce their will in the world, and where language dictates society instead of society dictates language. And they're everywhere. It's silly. It's crazy. That's what's out there, mumbo-jumbo times.
Yeah. Some of us call it Clown World. It goes by many names. Out there, the Upside Down, the Negative Zone.
The outside world arose by any other name.
Need
Really?
Space.
Yeah.
Call it what you will, cameraman, but that whole idea of so why do humans take the worst possible routes? I think it's inherent evil. I'm not a religious man, but I do believe that something inside of us beckons to do the wrong thing. Even if it seems right, it's not. I don't know how else to explain it. It's kind of like when you shouldn't be eating something, and you eat it anyway. When you shouldn't be wasting your time with a hobby that's useless and not a skill, and you're like, "What? It's fine. I enjoy it." Those are small examples, but you get the concept. It gets out of hand. The world is full of people who just want to do things they shouldn't do, and we've reached a peak. You used to have people doing drugs and sleeping around, and now they're in six-way relationships and on ketamine for fun.
And you sometimes wonder if the good old-fashioned jerkin spurt is just way beyond the realm of understanding and appreciation of people who are poly and have multiple people overlapping with their personal lives and sometimes their professional lives. And let's be honest, when was the last time you've ever heard anything meaningful or positive from a poly person? Because I haven't.
I mean, all the ones I know are backtracking or trying to get a grasp on their life. But it's not just sex either, cameraman.
Or destined to fail. How many times does it work?
There are clown world diets. There are clown world politics. There's clown world religions. There's clown world hobbies, and there's clown world television, and there's clown world social media. It's just everyone is doing shit that doesn't make sense. Could you imagine taking a provocative picture of yourself that you're like, this is for the eyes of my close personal friends and my love interests and my family? But no, it's on Instagram now, and random people can be like, girl in bikini, and look, you're there. Because that's how the internet works. Could you imagine somebody one day looking at an animal and being like, I can't eat you because you have a face, but for millions of years, it's how we survived.
Well, the internet works in two ways. One, it's going to dirty up anything you put into it. Anything.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
But number two, it's a great way to find other people where you can live life in a privileged sort of manner and where you can choose to not eat red meat for that act. That very act alone is what makes the environment suffer. Not carbon emissions from China or India or Nigeria no. It is us eating red meat, and that's why they eat greens and they trick their body into thinking it's getting what it needs. That's what they do.
It's everywhere, cameraman. Can't escape that shit. It's just what we do. And again, it all comes back to inherent evil. Just why? Why do we subject ourselves to these things? How come it's easier to take care of other people and animals and objects than it is to take care of our own selves? How come we're always conflicting with each other? Even when someone has a good idea, you gotta fight them because they don't believe what you believe in.
No one ever gives credit, and for what I don't understand, it's the only reason I know of this is because, like, it happened, technically. So, John the Baptist was just NBA jam dunking people into getting from level 99 to level question mark. Not to say that he had a monopoly over it, but I mean, he was all like, save yourself, everything's going to shit, because everybody knows shit's fucked. That was John the Baptist. So he dunked Jesus, and he went from level 99 to level question mark. And then Jesus did all those things that we come to know him to have done. And all the supernatural, awesome, crazy, water into wine, Last Supper, and so forth. So, yeah, John the Baptist never gets props. That's indicative of mumbo jumbo times, or clown world, whatever you'd like to call it.
You know what the worst part, Cameraman, is that it started so long ago. There's always been some kind of stupid behavior going on in the world, but, like, the current year is just so full of it. Oh, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. You'll see. You'll see when you start looking more stuff up. I know that one couple of things or two things you read, it only gets worse, man. It only gets worse.
You know, all of your worst fears can be confirmed if you know where to look on the internet. Now, I don't just mean that on a literal level, but on a proverbial level, because sometimes you could afford to be fancy and cite your sources and use something other than Wikipedia, but still, like, sometimes you'll find things, and, you know, I'll give you a perfect example. So, there are some people who claim that Oswald acted alone, and he clearly didn't, and he was crudely photoshopped into being in the backyard, and you could tell that, like, wow, that shadow doesn't match, and it's crude Photoshop, you know, like, excuse me, sir, but I could tell that this pixel was bullshit, and it's really not even all that hard. But the Kennedy assassination was the first time active measures were taken to make sure, like, you know, okay, quiet, shut up, just... And some can argue that's the beginning of mumbo jumbo times, because eventually, like, Martin Luther King, RFK, and Malcolm X got whacked. What's his name? So and so got whacked. Medgar Evers. I probably fucked both of those up, but you could probably tell that, yeah, he died too. So yeah.
Eventually 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
If you go down the timeline long enough, that happened.
Yeah. Oh boy.
You've got a few events which you can make your own timeline because it's different for everyone. What I think is clowny might not be something that you think is clowny.
Right.
You read that UN report, and yeah, we treat our own like shit. It's not just them though. It's we have entire sects of people who look at other sects of people and go, no.
Alright, cameraman. So here's something that's symptomatic of what I call mumbo jumbo times, but what he calls clown world, alright? So, right now, there are people who are very pro-migrant, and they call them undocumented American instead of illegal immigrant. They chant things like abolish ICE. We wouldn't miss much if there was nuclear holocaust, is what I'm trying to say. So these people, they're willing to fight tooth and nail for this illegal alien to show up here. And once they're here, there's no talk about how to screen it, like where are we going to house it, how are we going to feed it. Much like the pro-life will fight tooth and nail for that unborn child and dox you and get you fired and show up to where you work and chant on the train and go the whole 9 yards and the whole 9 months. And then once you give birth to it, that's it. They move on to the next person expecting to give birth against their means and controls. So that's a strange parallel because pattern recognition isn't evil, according to the left. So that's asymptomatic of a clown world mumbo jumbo times.
I think the funniest thing about comparing the two, as far as like pro-life people go, like you said, they don't really care once it's actually out there, but like it's an issue that should just be something that's a matter of choice rather than something that you have to advocate for. It's one thing to say, like, people should have the right to abort their baby. Like, okay, your body, your rules. The same way you feel to do whatever drugs you want and adhere to whatever, like, schedule you want. It's just that you make your own choices.
As long as you don't infringe on any American's life, liberty, or pursuit of happiness, do whatever you want.
So it's one thing to say, I think people should have the right to choose what they want to do. It's a whole other thing to say, like, you have to adhere to the belief that I have. And as he said, that is one of the symptoms of Clown World. It's not about the actual liberties, freedoms, and possibilities for the entire race. It's about adhering to the freedoms and liberties I believe you should have. Not me, but the people who push the clowny mentality.
He put up a good point. I'd like to build on this. So, at some point, we have to participate in people who assert themselves to be something in public that they are not, collectively, unless we all buy into their, like, self-centered illusion. Because lying, how do I put this? Self-deception often precedes deceiving others, okay? So, no matter how strong your goatee is, no matter how prominent your acne is, you will never be a man. You're just a woman taking a train to and from work.
And vice versa, you're never going to be a woman. You can't be a black person if you were white. You can't be intelligent if you're stupid. You can't be strong if you're weak. You can't change what you are. You can't change what other people are.
Equality doesn't exist in nature, but it's being pushed from the top down. That's a symptom of mumbo-jumbo times.
People often forget that humanity is part of nature. We're just the best part of nature. Or the hyper-intelligent part of nature. Or the growing, ever-present, destructive part of nature. But nature, nonetheless.
I used to subscribe to the idea that George Carlin posited, where, like, we were here just to get Earth plus plastic. Mm-hmm. And, like, that somehow needed to facilitate this oncoming thing, and guess what? Like, plastic is, like, killing us and changing our hormones and doing irreparable damage, and we can't get rid of them. Plastic.
Yeah. And now there's a push to try and get rid of them, but, like, some will tell you that the world is salvageable. I think not. I think our best bet is to get the hell off of this rock onto another rock, and then ruin that rock until we can get a good enough species where we don't care about ruining rocks.
You feel about that? Like you really think that we should just abandon ship and just go to another planet and fuck it up like we did here?
Not abandon ship so much as take the ones that actually have a good ideology and a good mentality and a planetary, universal, galactic mentality.
Okay.
Get them out there. Leave this to become whatever it becomes. If it destroys itself, there's no loss. The race lives on.
Right.
You know, as far as the Fermi paradox goes, we would have beaten it.
Would have.
If we get something off this planet and surviving elsewhere.
But would have, could have, should have. I digress.
Yeah, of course.
Alright.
But you could... it doesn't have to be the way that it is, but it is the way that it is.
So, another stark, grimy parallel to this is how there were preachers and congressmen and senators who were all very like, I have never gay. They gayed really hard. Specifically Larry Craig and Ted Haggard. Oof, they built up a career out of I have never gay, and they gayed so hard, like all the sinners were able to like take it easy for like a couple of weeks. That's how hard they gayed. So that happened, and then years later, all these anti-Gamergate folks are like, immigrants about misogyny and herpa-derpa-dupa, and like they were accused of sexual harassment themselves, and like a lot of them stepped down.
Yeah, projection's a big problem.
And the FBI showed up to more than a few. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I mean,
it happened.
Keep that in mind, cameraman. He makes a valid point. If you hear somebody preaching something, like dead set on thing is bad, and not just like, ask me if something's wrong. Yes, it's wrong. I'm talking about like their entire character is built upon these pillars of I must go against these ideologies. There's a good chance that they are one of those ideologies. The reason why they have to fight it so hard is because they're resisting what they are. People love to put their own problems out in their sleeves. Whether they like it or not, they do it. it's subconscious. It's part of what we are. We promote ourselves in the worst possible ways. Why do you think social media is so prevalent? People love to promote themselves. They love to be on the face of things.
We're like our own worst hype man.
Yeah, constantly, and that's just history. That's humanity. It's
the sexist scoliosis pose. We're just ready for a selfie anytime, anywhere. Yeah, whatever happened to posture and standing up straight and smiling? It's gone of the days of yore, I suppose.
Oh, it's not gone. It's just it's not the main ideology right now. There's a time when that was what you had to do to stick around and look important, but like now it's changed. Like so many things. It's easy to say I don't like how things are going, but it's a whole other way to say like, is this really better than what was? Some things have made improvements, but most things have gone 2 steps back.
Yes.
Like,
okay.
Technology has gone to amazing places. However, with the greater advancements in technology,
we're just unhappier.
We've gone from like, let's advance medical science and get into space to like, we need computers in our pockets and like an ever-present big brother who watches over us via social media. No one asked for this. But it started off as a small corner of the internet with web pages and personal profiles, and it became, I can't live without this.
It's really sad that there are well-meaning people who are documenting the lives of their like wives and kids as they grow through the years, but just feeding into this like amalgamation of just like spewing algorithms and trying to track. Because if you look at Google and Facebook and things of that nature, they have their origins in being in like the Department of Defense and like funding and like, well, what if we X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, and C? And then like, Tumblr and what have you was all be like E, D, and F, and they were like, got it.
I mean, Karen, you came to the right place. You're asking the right questions. I guess what we have to teach you today is that the world is a deceptive place. Yeah. Very, very deceptive. And sometimes it doesn't have your best interest in mind. It really doesn't. And a lot of people out there don't realize that. And they try their hardest to be the good guy, and it's just making them the worst.
It's some otherworldly shit. There's no other way to describe it. And that's why it only happens within that realm. So yeah. So just be careful, cameraman, alright? Like, it might happen, and if it does, it shouldn't happen like that, alright? You know better now. You know better.
You judge everything on a case-by-case basis. It's the best thing you can do. Yeah. Just don't fall into any, like, loopholes or echo chambers, or don't find yourself looking at something and being like, that's what it is.
Are you speedrunning this shit? Holy...
I'm just saying, like, I've gotten to a point in my life where I have so many people who preach so many different things that I'm like, I've read this 1,000 times on the internet. What's your deal? What got you here, and how can I help you? Because, like, I know people who subscribe to religions of hate, but they don't think they're religions of hate. I know people that don't see the flaw in their, like, deviancy. I know people who do drugs for no reason. I know people who believe in things that just don't make sense, and I'm like, how did this happen? How do you believe the earth is flat?
But you could get it on the buffet table, the salad bar of 1,000 delights known as the Interbutts.
And you'd be surprised at how all of this is readily available now. So, draw lines and, like, just take time, think about it, figure it out. Why are we all fucked up?
Well, it should be noted that if anything ever happened in a beach house in the summer in front of strangers on a camera, that's entirely on you. That has nothing to do with like, this gentleman.
No, yeah, absolutely.
These things happen.
I mean, like, how do you even answer something like, what causes us to take the worst possible route in ourselves? I guess we don't know. Indoctrination.
The powers that be are only looking at the bottom line. Maybe that's it.
That's a good one. Yeah, keep that in mind.
That's just a thought. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Why does this happen?
Conditioning.
They want you to be accustomed to the boobs, LOL, like, YouTube's cycle of like seeing things and just being complacent and not rising up, and then like questioning why just things that get you banned from other things because reasons.
I mean, I can't stress this enough. As somebody who is non-religious, I cannot get past the idea that our own conscious evil thoughts is the root of all of this shit. Clown World is just people finally coming out and being what we are.
It's mumbo jumbo times, and you know it too.
Just shitty, horrible versions of ourselves, and we're like, oh, they're horrible too? Bring them in. Bring their shit into our shit, and let's make a shit sandwich, because, like, everything sucks, and we're all horrible individuals. And now we're just, like, maybe that's why it's the worst of times. It's just that we're all like, fuck it. We're done here. The planet's on fire. Nobody cares about, like, human relationships anymore so long as it only benefits them. They'll get involved. Like, I can gain from this? I want to help.
People are not looking at China or Africa or India for the carbon footprint that's going on in the world, but they blame it on eating red meat, so then they pollute the dating world, and then they pollute your personal, like, circle. And then eventually, by virtue of existing in meat space, the outside world, life, the FPS MMORPG, you're walking through the thing, and then someone is like, oh, hey, like, I don't eat blank because of X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh, okay. And then, like, they're wearing leather, and it's like, that kind of goes against, like, the thing that, like, you were proclaiming loudly, so I'm not going to say anything. But okay, I'm going to continue going that way. And then I went into the Afghan restaurant in St. Mark's Place, and it's, like, mad good food. Like, it's mad good. Yo, it's so good. Yo, I would
So, that was a real life instance. You tell me when to go.
Alright, give me a second.
Okay. Go ahead.
My bad. Dude, you okay?
Yeah. Just camera asking questions.
Oh, what's your deal, dude? Alright, no, man. Like, he asked me to come over. I don't have a beef with you. If you've got a beef with me, you take it up with him. You call me over.
We have to do this because you keep uploading it.
Yeah, cameraman. I mean, you should be asking the real questions. Who was the person that opened the umbrella during the Kennedy assassination? And it was broad daylight. There wasn't any rain. And just a random dude opening an umbrella in broad daylight. Was that used to time something? Was that just like a coincidence? There's no such thing as a coincidence. It's just a timeline. So, I mean, I just wanted to know what your opinion of that was. Because, hey, this thing happened, and within this thing, this other thing happened.